Okay, well, it's 7, and this is totally voluntary, so we're not going to wait too long. Just wanted to say hello and go through a couple of things on the syllabus this evening. So let me just hit the screen share. And most of you hopefully have, let me just move this over a little bit. Okay. Most of you have hopefully had the chance to look at the syllabus and so forth. So this should not be terribly exciting. But a couple of things I did want to go through. So first of all, these meetings are voluntary because this is an asynchronous online class, meaning that there is no schedule, no particular requirement for attendance other than we'll make a comment about that after we see how many people have joined. But point being that so a lot of what we do is going to be done through videos, some of the things we put up on the content section, and then the messaging that goes back and forth. So let's start with just a couple of simple things. And the first thing is don't necessarily get intimidated by things you see on the syllabus, because as I point out, things are subject to change, and in point of fact, they are and will. So when we start to look at some of the things on the syllabus, first thing is the textbook, and the first thing I would say to you is that we are using the textbook for reference only. I'm not a fan of doing this, chapter 1 through, whatever it is, 26 or whatever. And then we do the chapter questions, and then we do a quiz on the chapter. And so we're just not doing that. As a matter of fact, there will likely be, a quiz or something that we will decide. Maybe it'll be a discussion board question or something, as one of our, in a sense, deliverables, uh, because there is a midterm requirement that says I've got to turn in a midterm grade, and that usually they publish a schedule, but they don't always stick to it. So, we'll talk more about it either in the message board, or I'll send something out and give you some kind of a date. But yeah, we have to use something for a midterm grade. I'm not a fan of midterms, never have been, and for a lot of years I just didn't do it. I would just put straight P's, pass fail, so straight P's down the thing. And so apparently, at some point, the administration higher ups decided they wanted to have something a little more certain. So we will do that. Now, whether it turns out to be a short quiz, which would be put up in advance in the content section, or in the alternative mode, maybe a particular discussion board question or something, we'll figure that out in the next couple of weeks, and that will be um, a deliverable with a hard due date to it. The reason I mention that is everything else, unless something changes during the semester, so allow for that. But other than that, and despite what the syllabus may indicate, everything else that we decide to do as a deliverable, the due date, what is the due date, Professor? The due date for everything else, other than this first thing that I need to have for a midterm grade for you, everything else is due the end of the semester. I'm not a fan of creating arbitrary, due dates. It's got to be in by this Thursday, by the close of business. And if you don't have it by the close of business, don't bother submitting it. We're just not doing it. I'm too old for that stuff. You guys don't need to be tortured. I mean, it would be, you have to remember, and I tell all my classes this, I sat where you sit. Now, given the gray hair and everything, obviously it was a long time ago, but the point being that I used to, and hate's too strong a word, but I really dislike professors that would do those kinds of things. Well, if you submit it after the close of business Thursday, either don't bother submitting it, or it's a full letter grade off, or all of this kind of stuff. Well, we're just not doing it. That's the reality. The due date for everything other than this thing I'm telling you about that we will decide, for our midterm, probably a discussion board question, but maybe a short quiz. Everything else is due the end of the semester. So whatever that date is, May, I don't even know what it is, May 10th, May 15th, whatever it turns out to be. That's when everything is due. All right, so that's one point. Textbook, reference only, because there will be plenty put up on the content section or in the content section. And there are many videos that I have put up on YouTube. And I'll send you links from time to time on different things I may want you to watch and so forth. And then other things that, or, apropos videos, or I feel are apropos to what we're discussing at the moment in time. So, you'll get those and that'll be part of, the sourcing for the course. So it doesn't all come from a textbook. Other point, let's talk about the internet for a little bit. Blackboard is probably very important to us. It is likely one of the tools that we will rely on. And, pay attention to the message board. Pay attention to, things that may get posted in the content section. Usually I have it tagged so that it goes to your email as well. But pay attention to those things. So Blackboard and Zoom are important to us. But I want to also talk about, AI, because that's obviously a hot topic at many universities, right now. Well, other professors may have a different view of this, but to me, and I have a bit of an engineering background, factory automation and stuff like that. I guess my point is that this is one of the latest, greatest tools that is here to stay. I mean, it's not going anywhere. And some I don't know if others think that somehow it's cheating or we're plagiarizing or whatever it is they think we're doing with that. But I have to tell you, and whether we use it in terms of generative AI or predictive AI, and on and on. And whether we use Chat GBT or we use, I don't know, Genesis, or we use, Elon's product, Grok, and so forth. Uh, we have this, collectively, all of us, we have this really great tool, this AI, and we should use it. And that's where I come down on this. For example, if we decide that yes, we're going to do a case analysis or some kind of a paper or something on some topic, some company, some theory, whatever it may turn out to be, I have to tell you, my first inclination would be, and this is just an example, but my inclination would be to go, for example, to Chat GBT and plug in, I need a 7-page paper in APA 7th format, fully cited and referenced on the topic of, or, whatever it happens to be. And in about 2 minutes, this is being spit out for you. So you run it through the printer and now you have this document in your hand. And while I wouldn't stop there, you've just saved yourself. I mean, unless you just, BS your way through, or you load your double barrel BS gun or whatever it happens to be. But I mean, if you're really intent on doing something, you just saved yourself a couple, 2, 3, 5 hours worth of research and work. And you've let this new tool do it for you. And that's what it's for. I don't see anything inconsistent or incongruent with learning. And, some people say, well, students have to go through they call it the productive struggle. And yes, there's truth to that. But I mean, the days of going to the library that I did back, eons ago, and going to the card catalog. I know TU card catalog is something in Vegas, but point being, this is a tool. Use it. Why wouldn't we do that? And think about what it does for you. It does all the tedious, mundane, boring kind of work, research and so it'll generate citations in your document. It'll generate a reference section, et cetera, et cetera. Now you can add to it. You can build on it. You can knock some things out of there, because the other thing you have to never lose sight of is that this is not, in terms of sourcing, this is not the optimal tool. Why? Well, I'm certain, because I've played with it and done it for this purpose, I'm certain that if I plug something in, especially anything that's got some kind of underlying ideology, some kind of underlying belief structure or philosophy, or whatever it may be, if I say, deliver me this to chat GBT, and then on this side I deliver something from Elon's product, Grok, those two things are going to be remarkably different.
Hi,
So which is
Professor. I
natural?
have a question. Hi, this is Christina.
Yeah, hi, hold on for just a minute till I get done talking, please. So the point being that, you've got to source this stuff, and you've got to think through and recognize that there is bias associated with everything. It's like watching CNN or Fox News or ABC versus CBS, or, whomever it might be. Nothing is agenda free. And just like Wikipedia, same thing is true in the AI world, Chat GBT, Genesis, whomever. But what it allows you to do, it allows you to get the tedious work done, and almost like Maslow's hierarchy, it allows you to work on the higher end, and it allows you to be creative, do the creative kind of work. So you end up doing some baseline stuff, some research. This thing generates a reference page or a couple of pages for you. It gives you citations in a document. Well, now you get to do the creative work, the really for scale work, and knock things through and say, yeah, that's valid. No, that's valid. Yes, this applies to what I'm talking about. No, it doesn't. So it's a tool for you to use. So I would absolutely uh, want you and encourage you to do that. Okay, I finished that thought. So full stop for a minute. Christina, what was your question? Oh, okay.
Logged off.
Uh, yeah, okay. Well, I guess you know what is what it is, I guess. So let me just go through a couple of
I have
other
a
things.
question, Professor.
Sure, go ahead.
So, since you said that we're gonna use the textbook for reference, right?
Yes, correct.
How do we get textbook? Because I think me and other students tried to get it from Pearson. Every
Yep.
time we try to get it, it takes us
hmm
to a page saying page not found, something like that.
Yeah, I know. And if you read my the messages that I sent out, I'm fighting with them over that, trying to get that corrected. So give it a little bit of time, and hopefully they will resolve it in short order.
Okay,
So
sounds good.
yeah, no, I'm aware of it, but that's why I sent out the message that I did.
Sounds good.
Um,
Thank you.
yeah, yeah, no, it'll, and I go through this every semester. While I don't entirely love McGraw Hill, their product is very easy. You hit this, you hit that, and it's almost always there. Some of these others, it's a little more involved. So, for example, one of the things I had to do when I was creating the course is, you have to have I had to update user ID. I had to, so there's all these ancillary demands, and so it slows the process down. So I'm not sure if there's something that I plugged in they didn't like or whatever it was, but it's in process. So we'll have that resolved in the next, hopefully, few days.
Okay.
Um, yeah, yeah. So no big deal with that. But it is for reference, and it's a good source, but there are plenty of other sources, and there's a lot of open source information that is available. As far as course description and objectives and learning outcomes and everything, then you can read through that stuff on your own. There's nothing overly it's kind of boilerplate, I guess, is kind of what I'm suggesting. And then as far as communication, the easiest thing even though this is an online asynchronous course, meaning you don't have to attend these sessions, this is all voluntary. At least for the next couple of weeks, I'm going to be here every evening, at this time specified. barring technology glitches. I hear, for example, that we're due for some extraordinary weather over the weekend, so I don't know what that means, but I'm sure that'll have an impact on, internet and power and things like this. Hopefully, by the time we meet next Wednesday, it will not be an issue, but I guess we'll find that out. But anyway, point being that so communication, easiest thing is send something to my Gmail because I check that 100 times a day. I can't always access my NJCU email when I'm off campus. A lot of times, most of the time, yes, sometimes no. So, that delays things. Um, so that's probably also take a look at the message board. You can send me messages there, but fastest response would probably come from Gmail. We can always set up, like I say, private Zooms, whatever we need to do. We can play, Gmail tag or something, and then we can also Zoom. Um, Likely, we will do. I don't know if we'll do 3 case analyses. We're certainly going to do 2. So that'll be one of the deliverables. There are some quizzes. I doubt if we're going to do, it says, on the syllabus quiz 1, 2, and 3, 10% each. Well, we may do 2 quizzes. We may end up doing no quizzes. We'll see as we go through. Definite yes on at least 2 case analyses. Definite yes on discussion board. Definite yes on a final deliverable, and we'll talk more about that later in the semester. But I guess here's the point, especially for like case analyses and a final deliverable. I guess the old school way of doing this stuff is to do some kind of a written paper, and some people are comfortable with that. I'm comfortable writing. I don't have an issue. Many people are that way. Just that, whatever we do, and it's always how many pages. Well, we'll speak to that in a second, but when we look at the papers, it's got to be APA or reasonably close to APA 7 format. Not my insistence, beyond the fact that it is the style sheet for the School of Business, so that's been selected for us. And, again, final due dates on anything other than something we will use for a midterm is the end of the semester. So when is this analysis due? End of the semester. When is that an end of the semester? And whatever quiz. When do we have to have this turned in? Because I don't ambush you with quizzes. I'll post those things and so forth. So, those kinds of things. There's great flexibility. Final deliverable, same thing. Obviously, it's due the end of the semester. But here's the thing. Some people are comfortable with papers, and some people, have gotten used to PowerPoint. But if we choose to do PowerPoint in lieu of a paper, it must be in Notes View. Notes View allows you to put all the detail at the bottom of the slides, not in the slide, but there's the section, beyond it. And it allows you to put in all the detail because what? A slide is bullet points. So bullet points aren't equal to a paper. There's not enough information transfer and so forth. So, excuse me, if we were to do PowerPoint, we would do it in Notes View. Here's the third option, courtesy of my granddaughter, who thought everything that I was doing with papers and PowerPoint was dated. And she's in her 3rd year at Ohio State. My little granddaughter Ava, who is kind of a Bergen County Barbie, said, "Oh, Grampy, that's what you do." And I looked and I said, "Okay, well, what would you do that's so much better?" And she was right on point. So I've been doing it for a couple of years now. But we're all used to cell phones. I mean, you guys with the technology you have, you could launch the space shuttle if you had to from that cell phone. So the point is, you can do a paper, and there are some guidelines. You can do a PowerPoint and Notes View and a couple other guidelines, or you can do some kind of a video, almost as if we're sitting here. You can have your notes or whatever it is, and sit here like a Joe Rogan blog and read off of it, interview somebody, whatever it turns out to be, as long as you get the content in there that would be substantive that you would have done for a paper or PowerPoint or whatever. And it has to be some kind of a video file that I can open, meaning like MP4 or something like that. I know there are very creative formatting tools for videos and so forth. But the problem is the university is very limited in the kinds of files that I can open on the system. So it's really got to be like an MP4. So that applies to any of the analyses. It certainly applies to a final deliverable. And depending on the nature of a quiz, assuming we do any kind of a quiz, it would apply there. So again, three options in terms of delivery: paper, PowerPoint, MP4, or video. And that's entirely up to you what you choose, whatever makes life better for you. And again, as far as what we're actually going to do try to, and again, there are no due dates per se. We may choose one of these as a midterm thing, but online discussion board postings, we'll probably put up several things. I mean, it's not going to be like 20 or 30 different things, but there'll be 3 or 4 or 5. There are a couple I've carried over from previous classes and so forth. So we may repost to that. We'll see how it comes together. At the end of the semester, and this is, beyond any of the other requirements, but I think we may, and again, this is a may, we may do some kind of a self-reflection paper. Some key thing, some takeaway out of this course that is or was perhaps somehow meaningful to you that will have an impact on your business career or whatever it is going forward. Other deliverables are to be sent as an attachment to my NJCUE. Sometimes some students get creative with, well, you open this app and dig this out and all that. I don't do that because that's a great way to shield, viruses and things like that. And I am not going to be the one to infect the university system or my own laptop. So it's going to be a simple PowerPoint attachment, a Word or a PDF attachment, a YouTube type video attached, or the link attached to an email. That's how, we will deliver these things. Quizzes. Well, again, we're going to talk about this. I mean, I'm not a big fan of quizzes. I usually use them in the eventuality that there's a topic that I feel is really important to the topics we're discussing, the course we're involved with, and one of those things where I'm just not getting that sense from the discussion board. I'm getting a feeling of non-study, non-participation, and this is stuff you really ought to know. So then maybe we'll pop in a quiz. And it's not meant to be punitive. It's meant to force you to look at the material once. I'm going to pay you the compliment of being direct with you. I'm not going to BS you that, well, a quiz is a part of teaching pedagogy that, horse crap. I would do it mostly, not exclusively, but mostly if there's an important topic and I think that somehow we're missing the point or something like that, because then at least I know you'd look at it once. Final deliverable. It's kind of a summative thing for the material that we will have covered. It will involve some of the supplemental readings we're doing, some of the videos we will have watched, and so forth. And, again, there's always the question, well, how many pages, Professor? The short answer to that is, whatever you feel is appropriate. But I know a lot of professors use that as kind of a catch-all. Oh, yeah, no matter what I do, it's not going to be right. If I do 5 pages, it's too short. Excuse me, I don't do it that way. I guess what I would say is, how many pages on a particular topic do you feel at the time you'd be able to write? So if I had a requirement of 10 pages and you were absolutely capable of writing 7 absolutely magnificent pages, well researched, well cited, et cetera, and you sat back and said, yeah, but he wants 10 pages. What am I going to do? Well, you do what I did. When I sat where you sit, you load your double barrel BS gun and you finish the other 3 pages. Well, you don't want to do that. I don't want you to do that. So I'm not going to give you a page requirement, but I will say this. Certainly for most of the topics, the major topics, and absolutely for the final deliverable, if you're thinking 2 or 3 pages, in an APA format environment, if you're thinking 2 or 3 pages is sufficient, I'm simply going to say no. I certainly don't expect you to be writing thesis type documents, in the neighborhood of 15 pages, 20 pages, anything like that. And probably for most things, 10 pages is too long. I don't know. But somehow this number 7 keeps coming back to me. So I'm going to put a couple examples up when we get closer to the end and give you an idea of what you can do. And again, if you choose not to do papers, well, then PowerPoints, if you had 7 pages of a paper, I don't know how many PowerPoints you'd have. Maybe that would equate to, I don't know, 15 or so. I mean, something like that, I would guess, in notes view. And as far as a video, if I had to guess, I guess you could probably cover most things in 10 minutes, certainly no more than 15 minutes is what occurs to me. So there's a great amount of flexibility there. My view is always quality versus quantity. So if you kind of keep that in mind, I think maybe that's okay. And again, you choose whatever makes life better for you. What's it about? Well, it's basically, and I hate these jargony phrases, but it's a deep dive, meaning, not just a superficial load your, anecdotal load your BS gun kind of thing, into some element of the course. And I had originally, in courses past, picked several key areas, but I've opened it up and made it quite wide because, again, when we talk about org behavior, in particular, I mean, there's what's written in the textbook, there's what really is, there's what we observe. So there's all kinds of things to work with. So one example might be motivation, intrinsic motivation versus extrinsic motivation, and how valid is that today for, younger generations in particular, Gen Z, for example. Um, and so forth. So, different topics that we might cover, or a particular case that we might look at, or something like that, because there will be, there will be several, cases that, we'll be tasked to take a look at. But again, when we do this kind of a work, it's not an opinion piece; it's objective, and we're analyzing, not normatizing. Obviously, I think we know the difference, but normatizing is simply overlaying our own personal belief structure, our own personal sense of right and wrong and good and bad. And that's not what the course is about, nor are we tasked to do that. We're tasked to analyze versus normatize, more the idea of if this, then what, more of a scientific view of this kind of stuff. And if analysis becomes an issue, there is something, I think it might be in the content section. I'll double check in the next day or so. But there is something I worked on with a Dr. Ricci from Georgetown University years ago, and he allowed me to take his document, make some edits, and so forth. So I'll put that up there. And it's not a step guide, first do this, then do that, and then do this. That's not the way it works, but it is an overview of what an analysis is and some of the key do's and don'ts. And just anecdotally, one of the things I would say is that sometimes we get wrapped into a particular storyline, whether it's a case or a video or something like this or some topic, and we start, again, telling the story. So if I were to assign, watch the video on Gung Ho and look at the behaviors of, this particular, mythical firm in that movie, what we do is we start telling the story. Well, first this happened and the company did this, and then they said that, and there was this person that did this. So you're retelling me the movie. Well, I know the movie. I don't need you. What I need you to do is look at that and tell me what that is, what that means, what it's about, and so forth. So we'll put some more meat on the bones with that. But again, there's not that much writing that we have to be concerned. But the writing that we do, again, quality over quantity. We're not going to do it today, but starting later this week, and there is a video that I'll get to in a minute that I want you to watch if you haven't already. But we're going to start to talk a little bit about org theory and what some of that stuff is. We're going to talk about differences and perception and motivation and the impact and import of group dynamics. We'll talk about teams in the context of Michael Abrashoff, and that'll mean something to you later down the road. We'll talk a little bit about some leadership aspects of behavior and so on and so forth. So you can go through and topically look at what I think we're most likely to go over this semester. Again, due dates, end of the semester, so nothing there. I already mentioned AI is a tool. And as I'm looking at the syllabus, even though I'm no better at it, I shouldn't have a TA type this because I already found 2 spelling things. But whatever, that's right. He's pretty good. So anyway, go through the syllabus and let me know if there are any issues or things that come up as a result of that. That's generally what we're looking to do. Now, give me a second because what I want to do is I want to stop share that, and then this is. Let me find it. There's a video on deliverables, and so you can play that at some point. But this is the first one I'd like you to start with in the content section, Management 311 Intro Overview of Theories. I'd like you to start to take a look at that. And when you open it, it looks a little bit like this. Hang on. And let me just do this for a second. And let me see if I can hold this up. And I don't want to play it, but this is the video that I'm speaking of. And it starts off like this, and it goes in a whole bunch of different directions, as you'll see when you start to play it. So this will give you a pretty good perspective and overview on what we're initially looking to do. And with that, I think that's pretty much all I wanted to go through this evening. One thing everyone does need to send me, and several of you have already, but send me an email. The only attendance I take, I have to do it because we get a little check off thing online for the administration. And I think they use it for, I don't know, attendance for all kinds of things, but financial aid and so forth. I need an email from everybody since it's an online asynchronous course stating that this is so and so from this particular course. Yes, I'm going to be taking this course this semester. And this way I check the box once, and that's all I do. I don't, take any kind of attendance beyond that. But it fulfills the requirement. It helps the administration with the ends they need to meet and so forth. And that's, I think, unless I forgot something, I think that's pretty much what I wanted to discuss and cover this evening. So, are there any questions, issues, or concerns that you have? And now would have been a great time for Christina to jump in, but I think maybe she's pissed off because I didn't let her speak. But it is what it is.
Um,
We'll get past it,
Professor,
or not. Yeah, go ahead.
oh, sorry. So for the assignments and quizzes, you're gonna post them on under content, right?
Yes. Most of the assignments are in the syllabus, but the things that we're really interested in, I will make an emphasis by sending out a message or something like that. But if you do look at the syllabus, it tells you there will be, some different things, but it doesn't get very specific because I changed some of it semester to semester. I use some different cases and so forth. But the answer that you're looking for and the answer I'm going to give you is yes. Typically, when there's an assignment or a case I want you to read and analyze, I will put it up in the message board and send it to you that way.
Got it. Thank you.
Okay. Other questions, other issues? We can always, feel free to always send me an email if we need to chat. We can always set up a private Zoom and so forth. And remember, deliverables, please send them to me as an attachment to an email, preferably my NJCU email, but feel free to, do both NJCU and my Gmail. And this way I'm certain or relatively certain of getting it. And try not to do it as an attachment to anything in the message board. That's different. And, those don't always last all that long. And if there's an issue and it gets wiped out, then I lose all of that stuff. So,
So, Professor,
yeah, go ahead.
so for the attendance, you would prefer Gmail? Is that what you would prefer us use?
You know what? Truthfully, yes, only because it's quicker. Because I look at Gmail probably 100 times a day. NJCU email, I can't always get it when I'm off campus. And like for example, we're going to have this storm, or supposedly we're going to have some kind of a storm. Well, you know, so the trees come down, the lines come down, and all of a sudden I can't get anything. So Gmail, I can usually get, you know, whether I'm using, you know, as a backup Starlink or whether, you know, whatever it is, you know, I can usually get Gmail. I can't always get NJCU, you know, when there's issues, technology issues. So yeah, I'd prefer Gmail, but feel free, use both, use whatever you're comfortable with.
Okay, thank you, Professor.
Yeah, you bet. You bet. Any other questions, any issues I can address, any concerns that you have? Okay. Well, then that's it for this evening. That's what I wanted to go over. Somebody knows Christina. Do, you know, pass along the information. I will try and post a link for, I recorded this for, you know, the benefit of everybody else in the class. So I will try and get that link put up and, you know, then just feel free to reach out to me when you need me. Everybody have a blessed evening and we will chat again soon.
Good night, Professor. Thank
Good
you.
evening.
Yeah, as well,
You
Prof.
bet.
Good evening.
Good night. So long.
Professor.